Okay, so welcome back, guys. In this class, we'll be discussing about the regulation of body temperature. Okay, so what are the learning objectives in this video? The first thing is the first learning objective is the student should be able to list the factors which are basically affecting the body temperature, and the second one is to understand the mechanisms of heat generation and transfer in the body. That what are the mechanisms which are responsible for heat generation in your body, and of course about the transfer in the body. Then the third one is to understand the mechanism of heat preservation and heat loss from the body. The fourth is to describe the regulation of body temperature. So you have to know this, how the regulation of body temperature takes place. You know, what are the whenever suppose your body temperature, the temperature is basically rising, then what are the mechanisms which are acting, and this will bring down your body temperature. Like suppose in cases of hypothermia, in cases of hyperthermia, how your body basically acts. Then the fifth objective is to appreciate the process of acclimatization in hot and cold environment. And the sixth one is to understand the physiological basis of abnormalities of hyperthermia and hypothermia. And the student should also be may also be able to describe the mechanism of adaptation to hot and cold environments, and to explain the physiological basis of hyperthermia and hypothermia. So let us start here. First thing which you need to understand is the normal values. Now these values have been asked many times in your MCQs questions, in your vivas, and of course in your when you'll be going into your FMT classes. There also many questions are asked, what is hypothermia, when does hypothermia occurs, and what is severe. mm, just a second. Okay, so here you can see the normal body temperature. We have two readings here. One is the centigrade and the second one is the Fahrenheit. The centigrade which we see here, it is the normal body temperature. The centigrade is 36.6 to 37.2 degrees centigrade. Okay, and the Fahrenheit here which we see is 98 to 99 degree Fahrenheit. Okay, but the subnormal here, this is less than 36.6 degrees centigrade, and the Fahrenheit, when we compare this is less than 98 degree Fahrenheit. Okay, now when it is called as febrile or pyrexia or fever, which we call this, if the temperature is more than 37.2 degree centigrade, or if suppose it is more than 99 degree Fahrenheit, this is known as febrile, or he is having pyrexia or fever. Fine. Now what about hyperpyrexia? This occurs if the temperature is more than 41.6 degree centigrade, or in the Fahrenheit, if we compare this is more than 107 degree Fahrenheit. And hypothermia occurs whenever your body temperature is less than 35 degrees centigrade, or Fahrenheit, if we see, it is less than 95 degree Fahrenheit. Okay, so these are all your things, like your body basically maintains a typical temperature that is about 36.6 to 37.2 in normal conditions. Fine. If it is less than 35, then this is hypothermia, and if it is more than 41.6, then that is hyperpyrexia. Remember all these terms and all these values. So let us go to the next slide here. Now what are the factors which basically affects the body temperature? So there are many factors, from timing of the day to age, gender, and then the type of meal which you have, then the type of drugs which you take. There are many things, there are many factors which basically regulates your body temperature. So here the factors which basically affects here, the first one is the time of the day. Now what is the time of the day here? We all human beings, we know that there is circadian rhythm which basically fluctuates. Okay, so here in human beings, the body temperature is basically maintained by the circadian 24-hour cycle. Okay, everyone knows this. This is known as the body temperature rhythm. Okay, that varies in what we say as 0.8 degree centigrade. Okay, so the body temperature is usually lowest in the early morning. That suppose in the early morning, if you see 3 to 6 a.m., the body temperature is lowest, and this is actually maximum in the evening, 4 to 6 p.m. It is maximum. So here in this graph you can see this is the diurnal variation of body temperature. The x-axis basically represents the time and the y-axis represents the body temperature. So here the peak time here when your body temperature basically rises, okay, it rises 0. 0.8 degrees, 0.8 degree centigrade it rises. So what do we signify here is that this rises around, okay, 4 to 6 p.m. fine, and it is lowest around 3 to 6 a.m. okay. So remember these things. This circadian rhythmicity is an intrinsic mechanism and is independent of the sleep wakefulness cycle. So your body basically fluctuates, fine. Then comes the state of physical activity. Of course, whenever like there is increasing rate of metabolism, so increased physical activity, number one, this increased physical activity will basically cause excess heat by increasing the rate of metabolism, all right. So whenever like you are doing exercise and these all things this will increase the rate of metabolism and the temperature is elevated, fine, during physical activities. And this increased body heat triggers the appropriate heat loss mechanisms, okay. So then comes the age. Now in the age, when we see that the newborns, infants and the elderly people, these are less capable of maintaining body temperature, especially in the altered state of environmental conditions. Like if suppose sweating and shivering, these are poorly developed in the newborns, okay. So the newborns are unable to generate this like sweating and shivering. These newborns can't regulate this, okay. Okay, so therefore they fail to regulate the body temperature and behave like a poikilotherm. Fine. So poikilotherm, you people have studied in your 12th standard. So this is they are the infant, the newborns basically fail to generate heat via sweating or shivering. So basically they behave like poikilotherm. Okay, just a second. Okay, so. The surface to mass ratio is also high in infant and children, which render them susceptible to wide fluctuation in the core temperature on exposure to the extreme weathers. Okay, as far as elderly people are concerned, these elderly people have decreased metabolic rate, number one, reduced muscle mass, atrophied the sweat glands are basically atrophied, okay, atrophied. And then the fourth one is there is decreased cardiovascular reserve to dissipate heat and impaired ability to sense heat and cold, fine. So here in the old age also the body temperature is basically less, fine. Then comes the gender. Now this gender here which we see in women during their reproductive life under the influence of the progesterone, this progesterone basically causes increase in the basal body temperature. This body temperature increases by about 0.5 degree following the ovulation in the post ovulatory phase in the menstrual cycle, and this basically rises the basal body temperature. So this question is asked multiple times in your aims in your NEET PG, okay. So please remember that progesterone actually rises the temperature by 0.5 degrees centigrade, okay. So this basically it is also an indicator of ovulation, and this is also indicator that the woman is much more fertile, that the woman is much more fertile at that time, okay. Then we will see that the state of sympathetic activity, of course, if suppose the people with high basal sympathetic tone, these have a higher body temperature due to increased catecholamines like epinephrine, norepinephrine and dopamine. So they have higher body temperature that increases the that increases the body metabolism. Okay, therefore individuals with a sympathetic personality have higher body temperature than the parasympathetic personality. Very important question, okay. Now comes the body size. Now body size is like heat generation and dissipation. This depends on the ratio of the body mass to body surface area. The smaller animals body heat is more than the larger animals, and so is in the human beings. So suppose if the human beings are smaller, so the body heat will be more than as compared to the larger human being, okay. Now is the type of meal. The type of meal is like the foods which are rich in protein, these generates more heat due to higher SDA, like specific dynamic action of proteins. And the animal protein produce more heat than the plant proteins. So those who are non-veg, basically these generates more heat. Okay, so the animal proteins, these produce more heat than the plant proteins. Then is the environmental condition. Here in the environmental condition, there are environmental temperature, then there is humidity. Okay, so the type of clothing here which we see is like the nature of clothing influences the body temperature. For suppose like if someone is like wearing silk or linen clothing, this increases the body temperature, and by preventing, like this increases by preventing the heat loss from the body. And the cotton clothing here has opposite effect. So this is the main reason why this is generally advised to wear cotton dresses in summer and silk and linen dresses in winter. Fine. Now comes the sleep. Now the sleep here is like the body temperature is less due to central as well as peripheral mechanisms. Like suppose in sleep the heat production is less due to decreased sympathetic and physical activities, and due to decreased sensitivity of thermostat. So during your sleep, your sympathetic activity is decreased and your physical activity is also decreased. So the body temperature is less. Now comes the emotions and excitement. So emotional reactions and excitements, these basically increases your body temperature. Now here this is the table which shows that the body structures, these contributing to body mass and heat production at rest. So what happens here is that this is the trunk viscera. The contribution of to percentage of body mass, this is around 34%, and the heat production is around 56%. The trunk viscera. The brain, its contribution to the body mass is 2%, but the heat production is 16%. Okay, you need to know this. The muscle and the skin, here the body mass contribution is 56%. Okay, but the heat production here is 18%, muscle and skin. And other structures, let it be. So you have to note that during physical exercise, 90% of the heat production is contributed by the muscle. This is very much important, that 90% is basically contributed by the muscle. Fine. So the muscle and skin here, this contribution is around 56% to the body mass, but the heat production is 18%. Fine. Okay. Now we'll be discussing about the mechanism of heat gain from the environment. So what happens that the first thing, there are basically three mechanisms. I'll be marking this three mechanisms. The first one is radiation, the second is conduction, okay, and the third one is the convection. Okay, heat gain also occurs by the means of ingestion and ventilation. So we'll be discussing that what is basically radiation. So here in radiation, what happens that there is heat transfer by radiation which occurs between the skin and the solid bodies in the environment. So this infrared, just a second. Okay, this infrared cameras can detect warm bodies at night. So what happens here is that the infrared portion of the electromagnetic energy spectrum, this carries radiation energy. Fine. So the body gains or loses. Remember this, body will basically gain or lose heat by radiation at a rate that is proportional to the temperature difference between the skin and the radiating body. So the solar radiation, if suppose we are taking an example, that is radiation directly from the sun, is the major source of human or animal body imbibing the heat from the environment. The second one is like the radiant heat from the fire or a radiant lamp. These basically provides this will provide considerable warming of the bodies in the radiant fields. Fine. Okay, so the first thing which we have discussed was about the radiation. The second one here is about the conduction. Now what is conduction? Conduction is basically the heat transfer by conduction occurs when the body touches a solid material of different temperature. For example, like the body is lying on hot sand, this conducts the heat from the sand. Fine. Then is the convection. Now convection is the transfer of the heat into the body from a hot fluid or air is called as convection. Fine. For example, when the body is immersed in hot water or warm water, heat is conducted into the body. Fine. This is your convection. from a hot fluid or air. Fine, remember this. Then comes the ingestion or ventilation. These questions are basically asked in your all India exams. These questions were asked in the year 2012, 13. All these questions were asked. So modified questions will be there from this regulation of body temperature. Fine. Okay. So the ingestion and ventilation. Here the ingestion of hot foods and drinks like tea, coffee. These basically allows. This will do what? This will allow heat to enter the body, and breathing hot air from the external environment, as in hot climate. This will also lead to increase in the body temperature. Then comes the heat dissipation. Now heat dissipation is basically what? This is the heat is lost from the body through the skin, that is the cutaneous heat loss, or the lungs, that is the pulmonary heat loss, okay, or the excretory organs, that is the excretory heat loss. Fine. From skin, heat is dissipated into the atmosphere by the means of radiation, conduction, convection, and evaporation. So the cutaneous heat loss, if suppose we are discussing this, the first one is the radiation. Now this radiation is basically there is radiant heat loss from the body to low radiant, like suppose in winters, okay. So this radiation, heat transfer by radiation, occurs between two objects having difference in their temperature. So here they have given given an example that in winter what happens, that the radiant heat loss from the body to low radiant temperature of the environment accounts from the substantial loss of the heat from the body. So you people have taken this example in winters, like if suppose the temperature is around 5 degree or 6 degree centigrade, and you are feeling much more colder. So there is heat loss basically in the form of radiation. That is the main model. Okay, fine. Then we'll be discussing about the next thing is the conduction. Now this conduction basically transfers the heat from the body when the body touches a solid material of different temperature. For example, like placing an ice pack on the body surface, this causes heat loss by conduction. However, the clothing causes minimal heat loss. And then comes the convection. This convection basically heat transfer by convection occurs when the body is exposed to a fluid or air with temperature different from the body. The convective heat loss is proportional to the difference. Fine. So here we have discussed about the convection. Okay. So here they are. Here the question is asked that heat loss in calories and total percentage of loss. So the radiation here. Just a second. Okay. So the radiation here, which we see the mechanism here, the radiation, the heat loss is around how much? 50% during radiation. In conduction and convection, this is around 20%. Fine. In evaporation from the skin, this is also 20%. Pulmonary loss is like 7%. Loss in inspired air, that is 2, and in feces and urine, that is 1. So total is around kitna? 100%. Okay. Fine. So we have discussed all these things. Now we'll be discussing about the mechanism of heat production in the body. Like in your body, there are many mechanisms which basically produces heat. So the first thing which we'll be discussing will be the basal metabolic activity, mainly the activities of the viscera. Okay. So the basal metabolic activities basically generates heat. Number one. The second thing is the muscular activity. These are especially during the exercise or exposure to cold. Okay, so these like muscular activities, these will especially during exercise, this will also generate heat. The third one is the specific dynamic action of food, especially protein rich foods. Okay, if suppose you are taking like eggs, or you are taking fish or chicken, this has this has much more increased content of protein. Okay, so this will raise your body temperature. And then fourth one is your non-shivering thermogenesis, that is basically by the thyroxine and the catecholamines. So this non-shivering thermogenesis, this will also cause heat production. Fine. So we have discussed these things. Now we'll be going through the mechanism of heat loss from the body. So remember this flow chart. We have discussed about the heat production. Now we'll be discussing about the heat loss, that what is the mechanism. So the first mechanism here, the body heat loss, is the first one is by the excretory heat loss, that is defecation and urination. After defecation and urination, you'll be feeling cold. Okay, there is heat loss. The second one here is about the conventional radiation conduction and convection. Okay, this we have discussed in the previous slides. The third one which comes here is about the evaporation. This evaporation from body surface is like sweating, number one, and then is your like perspiration. Okay, this is your second one. The third one is third we have discussed. The fourth one is the pulmonary heat loss. This pulmonary heat loss is basically expired air, panting, and the warming of inspired air. Okay, so this is your pulmonary heat loss. This we have discussed. These are all the four mechanisms. These are all the four mechanisms that we people have discussed about the body loss, the body heat loss. Okay, fine. After discussing this, now we'll move to the next slide. Here they have given the application box that hypothermia has killed many people in the Titanic disaster. Okay, so when the body is like immersed in water, the heat exchange essentially occurs by convection. So the radiation and evaporation. This you people have seen this Titanic movie or something, or the main Titanic disaster which occurred around 100 years back, you know. So what was the main cause of this? I don't know when this Titanic disaster occurred. I don't remember the year. So mainly the people who died was basically via like they died. The main cause was hypothermia. Okay. So why hypothermia? How this occurred? This was by convection. Number one, the radiation, evaporation. Okay, these do not contribute to the heat loss in this condition. So what was basically the conductivity here and the thermal capacity of water are high, and the heat transfer in water is like 100 times greater than that in air. So the immersion of the body is chilled water that leads to speedy loss of heat from the body, leading to rapid hypothermia. Okay, so therefore it was believed that the most of the deaths in the historic Titanic shipwreck disaster was due to hypothermia rather than drowning. Fine. Okay, so this we have discussed that the hypothermia was the cause of death in a Titanic disaster. Many people died because of hypothermia rather than drowning. Fine. Okay. Then comes the heat exhaustion is common in athlete. For suppose there is an athlete and he's running a marathon. Okay. So what is happening? There are much more higher chances that he might be much more prone to heat exhaustion. So it is now possible to predict the amount of heat loss from the body with knowledge to the transfer with knowledge of the transfer coefficient. Okay, fine. So here they have said that these people are much more prone to dehydration and hypovolemia. Fine. These people are prone to this leads to like heat exhaustion occurs if the body temperature is as high as 39 degrees centigrades, right? So remember this, if it is as high as 39 degrees centigrade, then like this heat exhaustion will occur. Okay, this leads to dehydration that reduces sweating, and hypovolemia, which reduces the blood flow to the muscle core. Okay, this heat exhaustion is common, and in extreme cases this will lead to heat stroke. Very 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 important. Once the heat stroke occurs, the core body temperature may be 41 degree or more, and this will lead to like impaired thermoregulatory mechanisms, right? Okay, so two things we have seen. The first one was the hypothermia, and the second one which we have seen is the heat exhaustion or the heat stroke, okay, which occurs in the athletes. Now this how this regulation of body temperature takes place. Okay, so now we'll be discussing that what is basically how hypothalamus is playing a role in your maintaining the body temperature. Okay, how this is basically regulating your body temperature. So the first one is that there are sensors, there are thermal sensors. Okay, the thermal sensor, these are basically the thermoreceptors which are located in two crucial structures in the body, the skin and the hypothalamus. Very important, remember this, the skin and the hypothalamus. I'll mark here. Okay, mark nahi ho payega. The skin and the hypothalamus, they respond to changes in the local temperature. The thermosensitive sensors are free nerve endings, and these and that are distributed over skin of the different like the entire body surface. The cutaneous thermoreceptors, okay, inform the body thermal condition of the external environment. So what happens here is that there are also specialized sensors. These are basically the hypothalamic thermoreceptors. These basically inform the CNS about the body's internal thermal condition. So here we have seen one is the warmth receptor and the second one is the cold receptor. Fine. So the warm receptors, if we are looking here, this one is the warmth receptor and the cold receptors. So now discussing about the warmth receptor, this contributes around 10% of the thermoreceptors, and these are stimulated at the higher temperature. This increases at like 44 to 46 degrees centigrades, right? And the cold receptors, these are basically present in 90% of thermoreceptors. Okay, these are cold receptors, and they typically increase their firing rate when the local temperature decreases from approximately 40 degree to like 24 degree. Fine. Then comes the hypothalamic thermoreceptors. These are very much important. Remember that these hypothalamus plays an important role in thermoregulation. Okay, and what it does here is that this plays an important role in maintaining the temperature in your body, and the failure on the part of the hypothalamus to detect such challenges and mediate such responses to rapid alteration in the core body temperature. So here again the hypothalamic temperature regulating neurons, it has been given into three categories. Okay, there are three categories here. The first one is the sensor neurons, the second one is the heat loss neurons, and the third one is the heat production neurons. Fine. So what are the sensor neurons? I'll be discussing here the sensor neurons. These are basically the hypothalamic thermoreceptors that are located in anterior hypothalamus. Okay, so one of the question which is asked in your NEET PG is ki where is thermoreceptors located, hypothalamic thermoreceptor located in which nucleus of hypothalamus? So you have to answer that it's located in the anterior hypothalamus. Fine. Okay. So as described above, the warm sensitive cells are more than the cold sensitive cells. They collect the information about both the peripheries and the central like thermoreceptors. Okay. Okay. So the heat loss neurons here, these neurons these activate the heat loss located in the anterior hypothalamus, and the anterior hypothalamus is also called as the heat loss center. Remember this anterior hypothalamus. The first question was about the location. The second one is ki anterior hypothalamus will be responsible for what? Heat loss or heat gain. Okay, so this is basically responsible for heat loss. Okay, this center basically produces what? Vasodilation, number one. The second is sweating. This promotes heat loss. Always remember this. Okay. Now we'll be discussing the next part. So remember that this lesion to this center, this will basically produce hyperthermia, especially on exposure to hot environment. Okay, so pre-optic area is also classified under the heat loss center. So you just need to remember that this is basically like, if suppose there is a lesion in the anterior hypothalamus, this will cause hyperthermia. Fine. Okay, now comes the heat production neurons. Okay, what are the heat production neurons? These are like the neurons that on activation activates the mechanisms that prevent loss of heat and produce internal heat. These are located in posterior hypothalamus. Very important. So in the posterior hypothalamus, which neurons are there? These are the heat production neurons, number one. Okay, the posterior hypothalamus has heat production neurons. Therefore, the posterior hypothalamus is called the heat production center, number one. Okay, heat production center. Okay, now on activation, it produces cutaneous vasoconstriction and shivering that increases the body temperature. Okay, so the lesion here of this center, this leads to hypothermia, especially in the exposure to cold environment. So again remember this, what will happen if suppose the posterior hypothalamus is damaged? Again, this question is asked in your NEET PGs. Anterior hypothalamus and posterior hypothalamus. These questions are much more patent to your NEET PGs exams. They have been constantly asked about the nucleus of hypothalamus. So the anterior one was about the it was responsible for your heat loss, and the posterior one is basically responsible for your heat production. Okay, so the lesion in the posterior hypothalamus here, this will lead to hypothermia. Very important, notice this. Okay, now this is the mechanism of hypothalamic integral integration following change in the set point temperature. So what will happen here? There are two scenarios. The first one is about the alteration in the heat production, and the second was is the alteration in the heat loss. So what will happen here, that there is a change in the set point temperature. Now this will send thermal signals. Okay, once the thermal error signal has been sent to the hypothalamic integration center, what will this do? There will be thermal effector signal. This will give four changes. The first one will be your behavioral changes. The second one will be about the change in sweating. The third one will be skeletal muscle activity, and the fourth one will be vasodilation or vasoconstriction. So this is how your whole scenario basically operates. Your whole mechanism of hypothalamic integration following set point temperature. This is how your hypothalamus basically responds. Okay, so always remember this. The hypothalamic integration center, that how this detects the thermal error signal, and this will basically give thermal effector signals. Fine. Okay, so the response which are activated by change in body temperature, suppose responses which are activated on exposure to heat here. The first one is about the responses that promote heat loss, that is cutaneous vasodilation, sweating, increased respiration or panting. These all questions are asked in your NEET exams. So, these all are your options which are being asked. Like they will give you a question that what will be the responses which are activated to exposure to heat. Okay, what are the responses which will occur? So here we have discussed that which promotes the heat loss is cutaneous vasodilation, the sweating, and increased respiration or panting. The responses that reduce heat production is decrease appetite, number one, and the second one is decrease physical activity. So what are the responses which basically activate? Like suppose if you people are going to Shimla or Himalaya or something, so what will happen? So these responsible are basically this promotes the heat gain. Okay, the number one will be shivering. Shivering thermogenesis, shivering will occur. The second one is increased physical activity. The third one is increased secretion of catecholamines, that is non-shivering thermogenesis, and the fourth one is about the increased appetite. Fine. This is the main reason why you people are feeling much more hungry during your winter seasons. If suppose you are going to, if you are much more exposed to cold environment, you will notice that your appetite basically increases. Okay, now the response that decrease the heat loss, these are basically the cutaneous vasoconstriction, change in body's attitude, and piloerection. Fine. So we people have discussed all these things, the responses on exposure to heat and responses that activate on exposure to cold. Fine. Remember this thing. This is the main crux. This one and this diagram. These two are the main crux. Okay. Fine. Now again I have added this on the applied aspect, the mechanism of genesis of fever. That how suppose nowadays COVID and viral fever and all this bacterial fever in your typhoid fever, this all, how there is genesis of fever. This here I have discussed the mechanism. Okay, and we'll also be discussing about the applied aspect, that suppose someone is suffering from fever, then pharmacological point of view, if you are giving him paracetamol or aspirin, how this basically reduces his body temperature. Okay, we'll be discussing this. Okay, now listen to this. Whenever there is an infection or inflammation or tissue damage, this will basically release what? This will release pyrogens. Okay, this will lead to activation of cell or mononuclear phagocytic system. This monocyte, macrophage or Kupffer cells, this will release cytokines. Now cytokines are basically what? These are like your chemicals which are inside your cells. Okay, So this will stimulate this OVLT, which is basically the this is located in the hypothalamus. Okay, so what will this do? This will activate the preoptic area of the hypothalamus. Fine. Once the preoptic area of the hypothalamus is activated, this will lead to increased production of prostaglandin like PGE2 locally, and this will raise the thermostat set point in the hypothalamus. Okay. Once the thermostat set point in the hypothalamus is raised, this will lead to increase in the heat production and decrease in heat loss. And this will ultimately lead to what? This will ultimately lead to fever. Fine. So this is how your fever is basically generated. This is how genesis of fever takes place. So remember the keyword here. This is basically that once like your preoptic area of the hypothalamus, if this is activated here, this will lead to increase in the production of prostaglandin, that is your prostaglandin E2 locally, and this will raise the thermostat set point in the hypothalamus. So once your thermostat set point is raised, this will lead to increase in your heat production and decrease in heat loss. So your body will be warmer, and this is nothing but fever. Fine. So this is the main step of fever, okay, which we have discussed. Now what will happen here, that if suppose you are taking PGE2 inhibitors which reduce fever, like endogenous pyrogens, this produce fever, we have discussed in the previous slide, and this increases the local synthesis and release of the prostaglandin E2 in the hypothalamus. So when you are taking aspirin or many other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like paracetamol, ibuprofen, okay, this will basically decrease the body temperature by inhibiting the hypothalamic production of the prostaglandin. So whenever you are taking this paracetamol, you know where it goes. This will go and this will basically do what? This will act on these steps. Okay. This will go and this will basically act on this step, and this won't be like releasing these prostaglandins. Okay. This won't be releasing the prostaglandin release. There won't be any increase in the production of prostaglandin PGE2. So these are basically your PGE2 inhibitors. Okay. This will go and this will block this increased production of PGO2. So there won't be any increase in the heat production and you won't be having any fever. So this is the main reason that after having Dolo or after having like paracetamol, your fever goes away. What it does here is that this paracetamol here or your Dolo, this basically Dolo goes and act here. Okay, this acts and this inhibits the prostaglandin E2. Okay, and this will basically cause decrease in your fever. Okay, and you will be normal. Your body temperature will be normal. So guys, here I have discussed about the regulation of body temperature. I hope that you people have enjoyed this video. If you like this video, then please give this video a like. Okay, thank you so much guys. See you in the next video.